Hey everyone, Arc Trading here. Welcome back. Hope everyone's doing well. Let's kind of dive into it. Looking at the ES and NQ daily charts today. So we have a couple areas of interest on the daily of ES. We do have these daily volume imbalances. Today we're still in that daily fair value gap. So overall sentiment, in my opinion, was bearish on the daily, but as I said before, just because I am bearish or bullish on the day does not mean I'm going to take opposing positions based on the range that I trade. There could be a daily bullish bias, but I would still short for the day, for example, and I'll kind of get into that as well. So, ES in general was bearish today. As I said, we're kind of going into that bearish fair value gap. We did have that daily volume imbalance down there as well, though that could provide a bit of a bounce. Going into NQ, we did close above this bearish fair value gap and then went straight back down through it again. So definitely bearish on NQ, but we are bouncing off that daily volume imbalance as well. So generally I use volume imbalances if I am, let's say, going to take a long. It just gives me that extra confirmation that the chances of it reversing in those areas are going to be generally higher. And I will use that as extra confirmation for me to take that opposing trade. Now let's talk about, I took one trade today. It was a break even. In my opinion, it was definitely a positive day. So let's kind of dive into the trade and what I saw. And I'll show you executions as well. Going on the 5-minute chart on ES. So in the morning, we took London session lows right here. So generally when Asia and London session lows are taken, I will look for the opposing liquidity rate. So for example, if London lows and Asian lows are taken, I will see that it most likely it's going to go up to these equal highs where the London highs are as well. So as soon as market opened, before market opened, actually pre-market, we were already dipping down, broke through London lows. Now, even though I have break of structure marked over here, in my opinion, looking back at it, this was not a break of structure. To me, this is just one solid swing down and this low right here. Technically, the break of structure would have been right here. I did see that when I was marking it, so I did take this position, but I did take half size on it. Just generally, for me, that was not a break of structure. And when structure actually broke, it broke by pretty much a tick. Okay. So to me, if structure is going to break, it has to be a solid displacement or a little bit better than this. Now, regardless, as traders, we work with probabilities. So probabilities of it working out were less, obviously, as you can see here. But I'm still going to take that chance, even though I mainly go for at least A setups. To me, this was on the B minus side. So obviously, we're risk, and the size I'm taking, it is going to be less. So we dipped into this fair value gap, 5-minute fair value gap. Took a trade at 45.2725. I was aiming for 2R. I was risking 3.5 handles for 7 handles. Now, this fair value gap right here is an hourly fair value gap. We did tap into it already. So I figured second time we might actually be able to at least wick above it. So I had my target right here at 45.3425, and which is prior to London, before London highs anyway. So if it did move up, I figured this was a decent target. Now, as soon as it bounced off, compared to NQ, just to bring up NQ over here. Now, NQ, at the same time I was in the trade, seemed a little bit stronger. Okay, ES was kind of toggling. Now, I am a set and forget trader. So once I set my targets, I'll leave it alone and let it do its thing. I don't like to micromanage it because I feel like I would talk myself out of a trade And through years and years of experience, it's for me it has been safer that I just set it and forget it. Now, just to show execution here on ES. So I went 4 micros, 45, 27, 25. That was my entry right here. Bounce off the fair value gap. Now, this is on the 1 minute chart right here where my executions are. I did scale out just when I was trading next to NQ, seeing NQ pushing higher while ES was struggling. I did scale out 2 micros at 45, 28, 45, 27, 75. Now, I still held half the position. Okay, I figured it came back down, put me in a little bit of a drawdown, as you can see over here. Half the position was in drawdown, and then pushed back up. Now, hitting this fair value gap once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, in my experience, the more times it hits that fair value gap, the higher the probability becomes that it's not going to hold it anymore. Okay, so once it made that other bounce and I saw it kind of throttling, I did set the rest of it to break even, which it did hit break even. So technically, I was green, tiny amount, very tiny amount. I would call it break even mostly. But because I managed that accordingly, if I didn't scale out, if I didn't do break even, it would have turned into a loss. And in the end, when you do take a trade, that's the job of your stop loss, is for you to be stopped out to avoid losing more than you intended to lose on. Anytime I enter a trade, I'm prepared that it's going to hit the stop. Typically, that's the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, more than likely this trade might hit my stop. And you have to be okay from that in the beginning. And I don't generally like to manage a trade, but just seeing how overall price action was, in the end, I'm glad I made the move I made. So it turned out to be let's call it break-even day. But avoided a loss, which in the end is still a good thing. Now, just to talk about one of the trades I ended up missing today. So at around 11:25, typically I like to be done by 11:30, 12 o'clock. I don't like trading between 11:30 to 1 in general, just the way price moves. But from what I noticed, around that time is when, especially if it's overall market has gone down a good amount, and that's where stops start getting hunted out. Okay, so on the 5 minute on ES, there was this break of structure on 11:05. So we had that swing high over there, lower low, and then higher high. Now you can see there's two fair value gaps right here. Okay, and you have a volume imbalance as well. I had my order out. This fair value gap was at 45.21. I had my order out at 45.21.25. Okay, I was risking off pretty much not complete low of that displacement, but enough where if it did go down there, more than likely it would have stopped out anyways. And I was going for 2R on this. It did tap into this upper fair value gap. I did not take it then. I was kind of set on just taking at the discount fair value gap. Now, through years and years of experience, I've found it better that I stick with my plan. If my plan was 45.21.25 entry, 2R, then I'm going to stick with that. I've done a really, really good job in not chasing. I don't want to say I've never had that issue, but in general, I never like chasing. So even if it comes a tick away from my entry, I will not chase it. That's just me. Part of me wanted to get in, and I'm going to say I'm glad I didn't, even though obviously it would have worked out, hit 2R, and then even ended up taking London highs. Reason being is, if I were to take this and I didn't go on my original plan, psychologically, for my next trade, psychologically, it would have me think, okay, that's what happened last time. Let me get in earlier on this one. And then if that ends up stopping me out, it's going to alter kind of how you're trained in the way you trade, okay? I'm very, very rule-based. So, like I said, even though I had my entry out, came close, it didn't hit it, ended up being a miss, that would have worked out. That's fine, okay? I used to be upset missing trades, but you know what? It is what it is. I stuck to my plan. And sometimes these things are going to happen where it doesn't hit your entry, it ends up working out. But I know that if I stick with my rules, that's where my consistency really kicks in. And other than that, of course, it is pre CPI, so we do have CPI tomorrow. I will be on the charts. Usually on CPI days, I try to be a little bit more on the conservative side. And if something comes up, according to my plan, I'll definitely take it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe. Any questions, feel free to comment down below. Thank you.